The split squat is a versatile exercise that can address numerous ankle, knee, and hip issues while preparing you for activities like walking, running, and jumping. This video demonstrates 4 variations of the split squat at 5 levels of difficulty. If you have limited ankle mobility, adding squat wedges can help you work on deeper split squat positions by supporting the heel. All right, split squats. Here's another one I could talk about until I'm blue in the face, but I'm going to try to keep it to about 10 minutes or less. If you are brand new to split squats, or you have severe knee issues especially, you want to start out at the lightest level, which is using assistance and elevating your foot to some degree. Step stools work great. Stairwells, especially with handrails, probably work the best of all because you have several levels that you can go to. But anything that's about shin to knee height that you can put your foot on that's solid should do the trick. Okay, so we have our assist. Now I'm going to use the second step here. This would be pretty high for most people who are just starting out, but feels good for me. So squeeze up, just like always. Especially push down on the foot that is elevated, okay? Really push down into that assist. And then our main target here is knee flexion. What the split squat primarily builds up first is the ability to go comfortably into a flexed knee position under some load. This is what most people are scared of, especially if they've had knee operations or knee replacement and they're building up that squatting strength again. This is very, very scary to put this kind of load on. So by elevating and splitting our attention to just one leg, using assistance, we can start reintroducing the knee to those deep flex positions without very much load. We're still squeezing though, because we need that synovial fluid, we need all that juice. But if this is your first time, again, don't feel pressured to go deep early on. It's like anything else, listen to your pain signal. Wherever you hit 3, stop there, hit the isometric, back up a little bit if you need to. Add a little bit of variability, a little bit of 3D movement. Notice how my support leg is also working at the same time. I got to squeeze here. I want to lift, manipulate the back heel to help me get deeper into that forward knee flexion. Come back out. Every 10-15 seconds, give it a shake. Start again and try to push just a little bit further. Rely on your assist a lot. It's not cheating, it's assisting. And just start getting that patellar tendon used to being stretched under a load again. That's often what's missing in a lot of people's knee rehabilitation is just continuous, consistent time, making that patellar tendon extend while that pressure on the meniscus builds for long periods of time, 20, 30, 40, 50 seconds or longer, with little breaks in between. And if you don't have a whole lot of loading capacity at the beginning, this is your best starting point. All right. Now, once you're able to get into deep knee flexion comfortably, go ahead and put the assist away and start rebuilding that form unassisted. Works exactly the same way. As soon as you hit restriction or pain especially, back off just a little. Start working the 3D, 5 to 10 seconds, let all the signals die down. Figure out where you want your next target to be. Retreat, come back, get a little shake in if you need one. Squeeze up and try to go just a little bit further than before. Once again, don't just have this heel perpetually stuck to the ground. If I want to go really deep, that's going to block me, okay? So make sure this support leg is active and engaged, helping you. Living up to its name, support. Support the position by moving it how it needs to move to help you access the deepest ends of it. All right? Woo! Now, once you build yourself to a level where you're able to comfortably go into deep knee flexion, somewhere approaching 135 degrees or greater, and you can push back out. And when I say push back out, I mean using this leg. Early on, we're going to want to help ourselves out, even deload the knee, coming through concentric, and just like the bilateral, just like the sissy, if you've worked on that yet, We're really focused on the eccentric, the lengthening portion, okay? That's what's going to restore space in the joint capsule, remodel the tendon, all the good stuff we want early on is in the eccentric. And we can kind of cheat the concentric early on, okay? But eventually you have to build that back too. And once you've built that back at a level where you can go deep into forward knee flexion and push back out through the concentric, it's time to go to flat ground, but keep the assist. Basically anything can be an assist once you're doing flat ground split squats. One-handed setups are nice, getting some pulls, and having 2 hands of assist, plus it's variable. That's really nice. Walls work pretty good. Bicycle racks, any kind of solid structure is a great place to set up your assisted splits. Once you've progressed to a flat ground split squat using an assist, now is the time to start building in other tracks of movement within the split position. I'm currently demonstrating a long range, high mobility version of the split squat, but there is benefit to the split at every single level, including dang near bilateral again, okay? It's a spectrum. The reason why you want to practice short splits is for things like hiking, especially where you're going to be in a short split position going up and down the mountain. Now for this one, we're not necessarily concerned with so much forward knee flexion, but in getting them to share the load, getting both knees to share the load 50-50. And then you can wiggle and worm your way through that. You don't just have to go through linear. But this is a fantastic variation to work on, is the short split. The middle range split is what most people typically associate with like a classic lunge. There's all kinds of benefit to this as well. And then back in the long range squat, this is where you build up maximum capacity in forward knee flexion and length through the hip flexor in the back, okay? For people with tight hip flexors, which is most of you, the long is where you're gonna find the most low-hanging fruit, okay? From here, we wanna start building out the other tracks. So far, we've mainly just been concerned with forward knee flexion, but now I wanna also start building the front to back and rotational tracks, just like you saw in the bilateral squat. So for this, I'm not gonna go too deep to start. I'm gonna use a lot of assistance. I'm gonna work my way through the eccentric down to about a middle position, something that feels like a 4 or 5 out of 10 in intensity and load. And now I'm gonna start shifting the weight front to back. I'm putting weight in the back leg, but I'm still active here. I'm not just relaxed putting it all back here, right? I'm squeezed up the whole way through. And then I shift load back into the front. This is a fantastic way to get longer sets in, okay? You can fatigue the forward knee to a 6 or a 7, and then gradually shift off of it into the back knee and let that get to a 6 or 7. And back and forth and back and forth. And no matter how strong my knees get, this is one of my favorite setups, is just being able to put some weight on an assist and work that front to back track. It makes me faster, makes me more durable than even working the up and down does anymore. Okay? Woo! And then we also have the rotational track. And this is where you're gonna build up even more athleticism and stuff like pickleball, tennis, soccer, basketball, anything with multiple planes. As we're starting to figure out, hopefully, benefits from adding rotation to your loaded squatting forms of all types, not just the split, sissy, bilateral, Cossack, all of them. And then finally, we have random, okay? Once again, moderate load, squeeze up. And from here, just go wherever you want. I'm just listening to the feedback all over the place. If I feel something in that back hip flexor, I'm gonna explore that for a sec. Maybe rotate through it. Whoop, get a little signal in the front, head towards that. Give that a little bit of time. Do some more randomness. I got something weird over here, all right. I'll put my weight into that. Wherever you put your weight is the problem that you're working on. That's one of the most beautiful parts of the random split squat, is you'll uncover all sorts of little bumps and potholes you had no idea about and go, oh, that's where I need to spend 5-10 seconds. Boom, that's where I need to spend 5-10 seconds. There's no right or wrong answers. There's no wrong positions. There's only 3 out of 10. and then pumping the juice into it. Right? Right. The other thing I really like to do during a random split squat is use my arm for leverage and explore some upper body thoracic region stretching, getting a little bit of shoulder upper back mobility work in while I'm opening my split squat, right? Killing a few birds with one stone here. Don't overthink it. Just get down into a split, something comfortable but challenging, and let your arm guide you into all sorts of nooks and crannies you probably also didn't know about. Last couple of technical notes before we move on here. Number 1, back heel lift. Think of your back heel as kind of the rudder of the ship steering the whole thing. If we plant the heel, just like in our sissy squats, we can't go very far. So that heel has to be lifted to some degree, or even a lot, to help us load the front the way we want to and or shift it around, okay? So I've got that back heel rise. From here, I can use it to push myself deeper into the form. I can put it down to help me retreat back. I can pivot it to help me through rotation, okay? But the main principle is the same. Keep that sucker elevated, stiff, and active. The last detail I want to discuss before we move on is heel rise in the front. It's not wrong for your heel to rise at some point. There's no rule that says you must always keep the front heel flat, no matter how deep you're going. At some point, I run out of ankle dorsiflexion and my heel starts to rise. That's okay. There's lots of benefit for training these lower ranges where the heel starts to pop up, especially when you start to talk about things like sprinting. Yeah. So go ahead and allow that front ankle to play too, but for the most part in the early ranges, do try to keep it flat. Once again, to continue developing more and more tolerance in that ankle dorsiflexion. But at some point, down in the depths, if you want to let it play, let it play. As with all the other squatting variations, getting some wedges lets you access those deep positions early on. Notice how I'm also using myself as a brace. Totally allowable. I can get down into these deep knee and hip positions without having to rely on really highly developed ankle dorsiflexion. If you don't have that, get the wedges and then head over to your ankle tutorials to learn how to rebuild your dorsiflexion. Once your unassisted splits start feeling pretty snazzy from every angle, that's when it's time to start adding weight. I don't recommend starting with more than about 5% of your body weight and build it up to as much as 25%. Of course, you could go beyond, but I personally think that's about when diminishing returns start to kick in from mobility, okay? From there, all the same rules apply. Start over again in your early sets. Just test how that extra load feels in the shallow end of the pool before you start heading down to the deep end. Don't ever forget to shake off after a set of split squats. And then massage options include pretty much anything in the lower body, but especially the patellar tendon region of the quadriceps straight down the middle. All the hip flexor tissue, especially from the middle going out, glute medius, glute, calf, tibialis, and of course, bottom of the foot. Oh. They're all good targets after a split squat, but obviously since you don't have all day to massage, my advice, especially with the split squat, is to pick out 1 or 2 spots to target with massage while you're doing it. What's the real tight spot? What feels like the Gordian knot that I need to cut through? Maybe it's over here. Ooh, maybe that's my spot. So when I finish the split, that's what I'm going to focus on. A lot of you coming through deep knee pain will probably feel a lot of tightness in the quadricep, especially. Maybe that's your target. And if you have trouble getting to the ground for any of these massages, keep working on your bilateral squat, hip hinge, and plank, and then head over to the crawling tutorials to learn how to get down better.